So let's dive right in. So how and when to build the perfect operations team. I am so excited to be here with y'all. Just out of curiosity, I see a couple of familiar faces here and names. Let's use a chat box. I want to see your role. What role are you in the real estate, on your real estate team, and or maybe you're an agent with an assistant? What is your role? Perfect. All right. I love when solo agents come in here. Thank you so much for being here, Celeste and Amy, and all you operators too, as well. So, without further ado, let's talk about how and when to build the perfect operations team. Has our industry adjusted and is continuing to adjust? And we're seeing things change and job descriptions kind of morph and adjust. And with that being said, let's get a quote from the the leader of our company himself, Mr. Gary Keller. You choose your goal, you choose your goal, you choose your business, you choose your model, and you choose your profit. If you don't reimagine your business, someone else will. Dang, isn't that the truth? So we're in the year of business, we're in the season of business planning right now. I'm sure many of y'all have GPSs and business planning and team advances coming up. So let's talk about that and how that works into a future org chart with your administrative support on the back end, making sure that the client experience is one of an extraordinary one. So let's talk about the steps that it takes to build a team. So first off and foremost, if you are at any part of the models, if you will, whether you're an individual agent or with an assistant or have an existing team, these are some good steps that we could and tips for best practice to ensure that you're going about it the right way. You got to understand your why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why do we serve people in our community the way that we do with one of the biggest investments of their life? When you get clear on that, the how, which is the system, starts to show up, the how. Then when you build that out, you're going to follow the model. And that leads into the culture. And actually, your models and your systems, those breed into culture that are tied with your why. So when you know your value proposition, which many of you have already taken the perfect operations team, and I know what the value proposition is, what value do we bring to our agents and the people that we, even our clients? You want to be learning and coach based. You want to have some funds set aside for when the market's doing what it's doing. You want to get clear on your vision and goals. So those are some simple steps. So let's talk about the roles in a real estate operation. There are three key roles. Now, so for our individual agents here, you may use a third-party company and contract out your listing management or your contract to close. So it's okay. You still need to understand if you're an existing team with these roles already filled, it is important that we have these steps in place to ensure that those roles are set up for success. So if you're building within your team, you want a specific job description. Now, I had the privilege of taking a class with JPAP Zan a couple of months ago, and we were going deep and thinking big. And he asked the group a question, and we drew out an org chart and a future org chart. And if you were to draw out an org chart and look at every single person in every single role, what are the three things that if they do not do, they lose the opportunity with the business? What are the three things? So that's a great place to start with a job description if you don't know where to begin. What are the top three things that if you don't do, you're going to lose the opportunity with the company? That's perfect place to start for a job description. Kind of tricks your mind a little bit. So even if you think about that with other people on your team, if you don't have a job description, how in the heck could we set anybody up for success if we're not clear on what you're bringing to the table there? Then you want to be specific. So say we have a job description, we hire the role. The 30, 60, 90 is basically the start of their planning where they're still on audition for earning the right. earning the right into the role based off of the job description. So after you have your 30, 60, 90, then we roll that into the GPS, which feeds into a 411. And a 411 is you take the annual goal, break it down by the month, and what are the activities in a 4-week month, or 4 weeks out of the month that we are going to do to ensure that the monthly goal is hit. So it's tied to the annual goal. So we want to get, then the other pieces, and we're changing a word here. We want to get specific with role play. Let me refresh this and make sure, because we do not use the word, it's conversation, not script. Pardon me, y'all. So we want to get specific with our role play and conversations that we have in the listing manager role. Now, we have fun in the perfect operations team when we talk about the listing manager role and the conversations that are had, because if you've ever served and grabbed a file, chances are you have dealt with sellers who are a little frustrated. You do enough of them, you start dealing with sellers who call your office frustrated because the agent that you had no control over left the lockbox open or the door open. Or we had, like, you've heard me tell the story before, the cat that ran out the front door. So we practice those conversations. We need to know what it's like to onboard with a client, letting them know we're in the office Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And in the event you need something, email me and I will get it back to you within the following business day. If we're not setting those expectation conversations up front, chances are in the listing manager role, you could be getting called 24/7, 7 days a week. We want to teach, you want to know what conversations to have that are based off of the goals that of the 411 that were fed from the 30, 60, 90 that based off of the job description. See how this all flows for each other? So how to deal with frustrated clients, how to calm down an overwhelmed client. We role play through that. How to even talk to the cooperative broker on the other end. So when we're clear on those things, then we build out an ideal schedule that will, if you're not intentional about it, I promise you it will get hijacked frequently, but we also teach you the conversations to protect that time and stay in priority. Then you basically want each role to have a business plan of some sort. So because we are in the world right now of business planning, the team has an ideal GPS, and the team's GPS should break off into department GPSs for operations, for sales, could be even for marketing. I've seen out there. ISAs, you name it. So same thing here that I just explained with the transaction manager. Transaction managers, y'all are helping clients with a very interesting time in their lives. They're dealing with packing up their property, getting the movers coordinated and scheduled for the next move. Maybe even people that are relocating from across the country, they're dealing with school districts and new neighborhoods and new lifestyles, etc. That is a lot. So same thing, job description based off of a 30, 60, 90 feeding into a 411. And what conversations do we need to have when we are doing that when we are representing clients and helping them that way? We are helping these clients with one of the biggest transactions of their lives. And if we should not take our jobs lightly. And the goal is for a transaction manager, for a listing manager, and a DOO, which we'll talk about, you always want to be ahead of the game. You never want the client to have to pick up the phone and say, what's happening next? If that ever happens to you through your contract to close process, number one, we have a system break and or a communication break. Your client should never have to pick up the phone and say, what's next? And the sellers are paying to ensure that their experience is a good one. Now let's talk operations manager, director of operations. Same thing. You need all of these things before you get into a position to hire. So if you're in a spot where we're thinking about bringing on a listing manager, a TC, or a DOO, do yourself a favor and start working on these pieces. They are so important. And if you find yourself not knowing where to begin and you join the perfect operations team, we're going to help you through that as well. And you won't be the only person on the call that's had to build their own job description by themselves. I promise. So let's talk DOO here. Here's a sample of a great schedule for one. Now, this is like a super, like, you want to be mindful minute by minute. You do want to give yourself time for breaks and to go refill your water, use the restroom, all those fun things. But this is a sample of what a good schedule looks like. And you'll see for a director of operations, there's a lot of support the listing manager and the TC. Director of operations, you should know all of the roles in the business. You are the right hand to your rainmaker, and your job is to also oversee the systems and processes. And if you are not being intentional with how you're spending your time there, everything's going to happen by default, rather. So if you haven't thought of having a schedule for your role and building out an ideal schedule that when you do fall off the horse, you know where to jump back on by looking at your schedule, got to think about that best practice. So let's talk shop on the benchmarks when it comes to building your team. So these numbers, Monica Reynolds and I have had some fun case studies, and as far as like capacity, we're talking about people with high capacity. So if you are about 30 to 40 transactions a year, you're going to go look and probably hiring an executive assistant. If you look at our MREA model, which is still relevant, model or level 2 is executive assistant. That person is like, they do all the things. They do transaction coordination, listing management, marketing, running things. They're just constant. And if you think about it, 30 to 40 transactions is about 2.5 to 3 deals a month. 2.5 to 3 deals a month, you should be able to manage all of those things. So when you're adding a listing manager or transaction coordinator, agent, when you have 2 administrators, we're breaking past that 45 plus. And ideally what happens is the rainmaker or the agent is in total, they're in production, they're making it happen, and they just don't have time to go get a lockbox put on the house and write an offer and throw out marketing because they're too busy lead generating and getting clients appointments set, rather, to go out in the field with clients. So per the model, then our EA takes that all of the administrative things off so that rainmaker can go, an agent can go out and do their job. And that's lead generate, go out on appointments, negotiate contracts, role play, and lead follow up. I said those in the wrong order. Lead generate, lead follow up, negotiate contracts, go on appointments, and role play. So when you're doing all those, leads should automatically and organically come in. Now, when our first hire is an executive assistant, now that in theory, that EA takes on all of the things that aren't of the 5 categories of what an agent's job description is. So now we start moving in and needing additional support because now our transaction coordinators or assistant, our EA can't be all of the things. And you typically will see that role break in to where that EA either turns into a TC, transaction coordinator full-time, and maybe taking on some listing management and all the other things that executive assistant does, or you could flip-flop that. But back to the matter is 30 to 40 deals. That's where the budget model also shows you where you should be able to bring on additional administrative support. And I'm talking about working at full throttle here. And then you talk about a second hire around 45 transactions. Now, if you go to the MREA model, hire 1 is an administrator. Hire 2 is not an agent, it's an administrator. Because if you're an agent functioning at very high level and you have 2 administrators supporting you, then you should just keep getting more business happening. And then at that point, we have some infrastructure, and then we can go out and hire another agent to come in and help with showings. So moving on into around 75 is when that happens, because now we have more leads. Our administrative support they're functioning at full throttle, and our agent now cannot service the clients and the generation of the leads at the same time. So now we need an agent to come out and probably showing partners or represent buyers. We don't talk adding DOO until 100 plus deals because you got to have an operation to direct in order to do that. So systems, why are they so important? Well, here are some reasons. They increase business and they help provide excellent client experience, scaled client experience. If we are reinventing the wheel every time as a transaction coordinator or a listing manager, every time a deal comes in, we're just starting from scratch and have no cadence and no system to follow, that is not scalable. And chances are the client is not receiving your best self, let's just say. You want to have an efficient roadmap that can, a proven roadmap too, I would put there, to duplicate that success. And as I said earlier, you want to set expectation and define goals. So your goals, the systems that you build are the how, as I mentioned. They are the how we're going to get to wherever it is that we want to go. And systems also ensure scalability and increase profitability. I would challenge that to say the right systems increase scalability and increase profitability. So if our systems, so many businesses, because the market has adjusted, we're doing less deals this year than we were last year. There's many of y'all that are. And if we haven't gone through to reevaluate that system, and you're finding system breaks and frustration, and clients are getting frustrated, chances are that system that you're working might be outdated because it might be, I'm just going to use round numbers. Say we closed 100 deals this year and now we're at 60. Not trying to be doomsdayer here, just really. Your system might be too much for 100 deals when you're dealing with 60 at a time. And then you see the other happen on the flip side too. If your system's built for 60, and now we're tracking past 60 to 100, you're going to see system breaks. You're going to see communication fall off. And I'm telling you, the simple equation is if a client is picking up the phone asking what is happening next, that is your leading indicator that we do have a system or communication break. Why are systems so important? Well, right here, if y'all want to take a screenshot of this, these are things that you should have a system around. From listings to closings to referrals to recruiting. How do we even be intentional with our culture? Well, we don't have a system for these things. Chances are we're just reinventing the business over and over again every day. So I said earlier, 100 plus deals, that's when we're moving into having an operations to direct. So 5 functions of a director of operations. Ta-da. They're dealing with leadership. Notice this is like the heartbeat. We should make this a heart. They're dealing with leadership, human resources, financial systems, and database. These are all of the things. For leadership, many DOOs are in charge of accountability. They're the culture keeper. They deal with reporting and integrating the Rainmaker's vision. When it comes to database, that is the most valuable piece of a real estate business is database. The leads, the METs being taken care of at a high level in your 36 touch, 52 touch, 72 touch plan, however many you have. Database leads into referrals and communication through marketing. When it comes to systems, you want to make sure that it is scalable for an extraordinary client experience and that it's automated and we're tracking along the way. If we don't have our tracking, how in the world do we know so I'm going to use simple math. It's not like we need to have more than a 36 touch. I'm just going to say it. This day and age, we need to be strategic and specific around it. And so if we do not do this and have a touch program intentionally so that our clients are top of mind, you're just letting the business happen like randomly, or we're just constantly lead generating, which isn't being proactive. There is a time when you're, for our individual agents, if you're newer to this business, there is a time where elbowing your way through it gets easier because your systems should cause repeat referral business to come in. That doesn't mean you still don't go lead generate for other levers. That's not what I'm saying here. But you need to have that system that's functioning. And when we're making all all of I'm going to go to the 3 L's of the MREA: leads, listings, and leverage. So the leads cause listings to come in. You can't get a listing without a lead, and it could be a buyer listing or seller listing, representation agreement there. And when you have enough of those go on the market, those go pending, and that causes leverage. Listings are also leverage. Listings should cause more buyers and sellers to come in, but you got to have a system around it to make sure that that happens, the right system. And then when it comes to the financials, we have P&L, balance sheet, future forecasts, REO trackers, our return on investment trackers, and then obviously our budget that tells us what to do. It gives us permission on when to spend, and tells us when to cut back on things. And then when it comes to HR for director of operations, of course, hiring, onboarding, training, and documenting the policies and procedures. So if you aren't thinking, oh my gosh, director of operations, you have a ton going on, you're not alone. There's a lot to it. You're the DOO is the doer of all the things, or overseer of all the things. So if you're interested in finding out more about how to build out the job descriptions, the conversations to have, where to stay accountable with the KPIs, join us for the Perfect Operations Team. We launch next week, actually a week from today. It's not too late to sign up. We're going to spend 6 weeks in the transaction coordinator role, 6 weeks in the listing manager role, and 6 weeks into the DOO role. And like I said, we go over job description, the GPS, the 411, the schedule, all those things that feed into setting the Perfect Operations Team up for success. You'll receive 18 one-hour coaching sessions, and you'll leave with about a 400 plus page policy and procedure manual for your hub. So every week we have a workbook, we have homework, you have coaching, there's live coaching, we have student of the week that will allow one of those 3 roles to set up for success. Now, if you have multiple people in your team, join us. Come. I even have agents take it with their administrators. It's also a great way to cross-train. Because if only one person is doing it, only knows how to run a contract to close process, they are the system is not the system. So why not cross-train your team to have a better understanding of the other roles that are in the operation? So it's $199 a month for coaching for 6 months. And it's live, interactive. We have so much fun. And my favorite part is the student of the week, because then you get free coaching right there on the call. If you do sign up today, there's a webinar code, WEB100, and you'll save $100 off your first month. And join us next week. Y'all like my curly hair versus my straight hair? Someone said that earlier. I think I like to make it complicated sometimes, because this is my natural hair. And so got to do the flat iron every day, roll it out. So with that being said, I would love to answer any questions that any of y'all may have about our program and or best practice. You get me? So throw it out there. Let's see. Oh, Jamie, you said lead generation, lead follow-up. So Jamie that was a little while back. Corrected us on that. Good job. Oh, Graham, thanks for putting the testimony in there. So Christian, when you're talking about a director of operations at 100 transactions, are you talking about market center or teams or both? Great question, Christian. I definitely think both. Because if you think about I'm going to speak for market center and the team ridge model that market centers are running in. If you have a contract to close process in your market center that you could plug into that is tied to the market center, this is where that comes into play. That's what I mean by that. So contract to close and listing management process. And it's going to all go back to the job description. Job description for director of operations might be different in a market center than it is for a team. I can tell you this much, if I lined up 10 DOOs right now on this call and got y'all's job description, there's going to be a variation on a real estate team as well. So that's why it's so important to start with that job description, with the KPIs as to what's important there. Hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions? Awesome, Christian. All right. Well, we hope to see you next week. Get to spend the next 6 months together in coaching partnership and helping you set up for success. Everybody stay safe and healthy out there, and we'll see you soon. Bye.